There is a podcast that lies between the imagination of two simple-minded earthlings. Travel with these two longtime friends, Jimbo and 80s E, as they attempt to explore the fifth dimension. Follow along with them as they take the key and unlock the door to the vast space between shadow and substance. This podcast is one of trivia, of insight, and of sounds and ideas from one of the greatest television shows ever produced. You are embarking on a timeless journey. There is your signpost up ahead. You are entering the tragedy of cinema's Twilight Zone.
This is Mr. Henry Corwin, normally unemployed, who once a year takes the lead role in the uniquely popular American institution, that of the department store Santa Claus, in a road company version of The Night Before Christmas. But in just a moment, Mr. Henry Corwin, ersatz Santa Claus, will enter a strange kind of North Pole, which is one part the wondrous spirit of Christmas and one part the magic that can only be found in the Twilight Zone.
All right, guys. Happy New Year, and welcome back to the Tragedy of Cinema, the Twilight Zone series. I'm your host, Jimbo, and today in the Southern Layer Studios, I have my good friend and co-host,
80s E here in the Southern Layer, and happily trying to run off a couple episodes here. Glad to be back.
Christmas may be over, but unfortunately, due to time, sickness, situation, circumstances, work, this happened to fall after New Year's. We tried to get it out before Christmas, but it just was not to be. So this is basically the Twilight Zone's version of A Christmas Story.
Right. You get an extra week of Christmas. That's all right.
We should have just waited till July to do this. Christmas in July.
Right.
So, Eric, here we go. The Twilight Zone, The Night of the Meek. Season 2, episode number 11.
All right. The Night of the Meek. This is the Twilight Zone season number 2, episode number 11. It was directed by Jack Smite. And it was written by Rod Serling, and it was produced by Buck Houghton. The original air date was December the 23rd, 1960. And as regard to that particular date, we got a little segment called On This Day in History. All right, so on this day, well, actually, not in 1961, but December 23rd, 1938, this relates to TV and film history. It relates to, more specifically, The Wizard of Oz. In 1938, Margaret Hamilton's costume catches fire while filming The Wizard of Oz in 1938. So,
yeah, she suffered some severe burns.
Yeah, that was a pretty significant issue there. I think it had to do with the paint. Or wait, was it the makeup, right? And the paint, it had flammable substance in it, maybe?
Right, and then when she goes down in the at the beginning of Munchkin Lane, when she goes down that trap door, it didn't get down in time or something and caught her on fire. But also I read recently that the green makeup that she had to wear, that it kept her skin colored green for several weeks after that as well. So we've come a long way with makeup and special effects for the record.
So there you go, 1938. There's your On This Date in History. So moving along off of the original air date for this particular Twilight Zone, which again was December the 23rd, 1960, the total production costs way down for this episode at $10,349.61. Now, Jimbo, you may have different figures as related to the resource material that you have, but I went ahead and adjusted that for inflation, and that adjusts to $104,094.35. And I adjusted it for 2023, since we are in 2023 now, and that's about a 905% increase for that episode. If you don't have any other figures, Jimbo?
I have figures.
Okay. Go ahead and throw those in, and then maybe take this all-star cast.
Right. So the date of rehearsal was November 22nd, 1960. So it looks like they only had one day of rehearsal. And the dates of the filming was November 26th and 27th, 1960. The script was dated for September 12th, 1960. And the revised script dated November 24th of 1960. So some other financial numbers. The producer and secretary was $2,143.84. The director got a measly $399.20. Story and secretary was $2,510. The cast, Eric, how much do you think the cast got paid?
I'm going to say under $4,000.
Oh, way under $4,000.
Way under.
Right. You got another guess?
No.
$988.09.
How much of that went to Art Carney, I wonder, because he was top billing. I mean, right?
I would assume. Production fee was $825. The legal and accounting was $250. Below the line charges or other was $113.93. Agent's commission was $2,500. Below the line charges for CBS was $619.55. And the total production cost, as Eric said, was $10,349.61. So, as we know, this is another videotaped episode, and this is what CBS wanted to do. They wanted to cut production costs, and as you can tell by this, they actually trimmed probably about $30,000 to $40,000 off with this episode.
Yeah, I have some figures. I'll see if I can dredge them up, but I think overall, I think there were 6 episodes, maybe 5, but in the total cost of what they were trying to save over the course of all of those episodes, they really didn't save all that much money. Now, they might have saved a lot on this particular episode, but on the whole, they didn't save a whole lot of money in the final analysis. And I think Rod he doesn't have a lot of good things to say about this episode, but we'll get to that in a moment. But the way down on production costs in this episode. But Jimbo, you want to take the cast, and I'll try to find that in my book, my resource material about.
Absolutely. So as Eric stated, the main character in this episode is Art Carney. He plays Henry Corwin. You may most famously remember him from The Honeymooners, where he played Ed Norton. But there's also a couple of movies and another TV series that I'd like to point out. Yes, in Batman 66, Eric, for 2 episodes, he played the Archer.
Really? He was in that?
He was in that. He was also in Harry and Tonto in 1974. He was in Firestarter, where he played Ian Manders. Then he was also in Last Action Hero, where he played Frank. So there's some other movies that you may know him for. Next, we have John Fiedler. He played Mr. Dundee. Eric, you may remember him from the movie 12 Angry Men, where he played Juror Number 2, one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah.
He was in True Grit, where he was Lawler Daxton. Sorry, my handwriting is a little Daxton. He was in The Odd Couple, where he played Vinny. And Eric, he has the voice of one of the most famous cartoon characters of all time. What cartoon character was he? Do you happen to know?
I do not. I don't.
He is the voice of Piglet in The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. So that's John Fiedler. Then we had Robert Lieb. He played Flaherty. He was in Mystery Men in 1999. Val Avery, he was the bartender. He was in the Amityville Horror. He was also in Cobra, if you remember that Sylvester Stallone movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was also in The Magnificent Seven in 1960. You had Meg Wiley, who's Sister Florence. She was in The Last Starfighter from 1984, where she played Granny Gordon. And there's a bunch of other people in here that are just uncredited.
Yeah, there's a pretty large cast.
Yeah, there's a large cast. I mean, it's 2 pages long. I'm not going to go into all that to save some time. So that is your cast.
Well, you can't forget. I got to just throw this guy in here, Burt Mustin, the old man, because he was in a lot of. I know him from Andy Griffith's show, but he played the
of course
man.
You do.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, he played I think he's credited as the old man.
Yeah,
but I think Henry Corwin calls him Bert in the episode towards the end of the episode.
Right.
I do have these figures. I found the figures. I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but I have total cost per report for this episode was $10,349.61, which we mentioned beforehand. But then I have a line that says total cost as adjusted after CBS billing of $49,153, and then for the episode static, $32,286.66 for total cost, and then total cost after adjusted. I don't know what the difference between total cost and total cost after adjusted CBS billing, but there are 2 line items. But for all 6 episodes, the difference between the 2 numbers is not very vast.
No.
It is for this episode, 10,000 and 49,000. That's a big difference, but for the rest of the episodes, they're all pretty much the same. And we don't really have time to dig really deep into why that is, but I know that I've read several accounts that said the overall cost was not worth it wasn't
the headache.
worth. Yeah, the headache, exactly. It wasn't worth what all they had to do to try to cut corners. So, moving along, let's go on with the plot. I think that's our our next step here. Henry Corwin is a down-and-outer who is normally unemployed and who definitely drinks too much. Every year he works as a department store Santa Claus. This year, however, he has spent just a little too much time in the bar and is quite drunk by the time he shows up for work. He's fired, of course, and deeply regrets what he has done. In fact, Henry has a big heart and worries not only about the children he's disappointed at the store, but about all the children who will not get what they've asked for Christmas. And when he comes across a large bag of gifts, everything changes for the kids and for himself as well. So, there you go as far as a plot line is concerned. One of my favorite episodes thus far, as far as the Twilight Zone is concerned. And again, I don't think Rod, and it is in my notes, he didn't think very highly of it, but I think it stood the test of time, and it's kind of on my regular rotation of watching every year. Not yours. Jimbo's giving me a
trash.
It's trash. Okay.
Instead of Night of the Meek, it should have been called Night of the Week, is what I'm saying. What do you think of that?
Okay. Wow, controversial. So we open up, the first kind of scene is a storefront, and I have some trivia. Jimbo, anything off top?
Not particularly off top. Of course, you see the great. As I was watching this this episode, I know this voice. And now that I finally figured out it's Piglet, that's all I can hear now.
Oh, right. So now that's all you can decipher. Here it is. I have this in this opening scene. I have some trivia as it pertains to it. It says CBS did not have all the required props to create the illusion of a department store, so many of the toys and decorations were brought in from the outside. All of the reindeer were furnished by Santa's Village, located in Skyfrost, California, a 25-acre theme park that was in its third year of business. The reindeer cost Cayuga and CBS no funds. The arrangement granted Santa's Village an on-screen credit during the closing of the episode. The trains that Corwin wrecks were supplied by the Lionel Corporation. Now, of course, that's a long-standing model train.
Well, also the model train is also the one used in the Addams Family. So
no, I didn't know that.
Yep.
So they were supplied by Lionel under the same arrangement. So it didn't cost them any money, but they just got free publicity basically.
Do you think that in the opening scene where the kids are sticking their face onto the window looking at our car, do you think that's a throwback to the Eyes of the Beholder? Because they kind of got the pig nose on the window.
Yeah, right. I'll say this about Art Carney. I think he plays the best on-screen drunk.
Yeah,
I can't think of anybody better.
He did a good job. I can't say nothing bad about him. He did a good job.
So after the department store scene, we shift to the bar scene, and we meet our number one character, Henry Corwin, and he's sitting at the bar, and he's dressed in a shabby Santa Claus outfit, and Rod has something to say about that. He says this in some trivia. He says, "I generally deal with people who are underdogs," Serling explained to columnist Stephen Stroman, "social underdogs, professional underdogs, and political underdogs. I've been fortunate in TV in utilizing this theme, but the strange or the novel is by far the most legitimate area for this kind of telling. I got the idea for this one," speaking of this episode, "by watching a Santa Claus parade with my two kids a year ago and noticed that on the Santa Claus float, the worthy gentleman chosen for the role must have had a last-minute and at least a third-string replacement." Serling explained to the columnist for TV Guide he weighed just a few pounds more than Slim Somerville, and his Santa Claus suit must have been dredged out of a canal someplace. It suddenly came to me that perhaps there is a story lurking somewhere in the whole concept of these guys who play Santa Claus for a living. And then I started to conceive of the tale, what would happen to an Erastas Kris Kringle if he had suddenly found out that he was Santa Claus. So that's kind of the genesis of how Rod came to create this, or write down and create a story for this episode. Not so much like the later movie Bad Santa.
And in your notes, did you ever find out what they used for snow in this episode? I couldn't find it.
No, but I think like for other TV shows,
I know they use soap at some
Yeah, it's like a combination of that and fans.
And also asbestos in some of the older movies.
Yeah, right. No, I didn't find out any trivia as it pertained to the...
But you could tell, even as he's drunk, that he cares for the kids. You know what I mean? His heart's just broke for the kids.
Yeah, that's a really touching scene. The kids, I thought that they played a great part, too. I mean, you really believe in these initial opening scenes, I mean... They look the part, like they're down and out and destitute kind of kids that live in a boarding house, and yeah. And then we come to Rod's narration after we see Henry Corwin meet with the kids on the street, and they're asking Santa, they're telling him what they want for Christmas, and then we come back after Rod's opening narration. We come back into the store, and Henry kind of stumbles in late and starts playing with those Lionel trains, and then accidentally breaks one. They're pretty cool trains. I wish I had one. And runs one of the trains off the track. And then I think in the next scene we meet the original Karen of sorts, I guess. I hate using that term, but the mom who's mad because Santa's drunk, and she's got like this uppity proper kid who kind of sits down and asks Santa, tells Santa what he wants for Christmas. And then we come to the great, I think I have it written down here too. Just jump in anywhere, Jimbo, if you have anything that sticks out to you. But this great line here, I have it at the end, but it's a great piece of dialogue. And I was just going to read it. When he's confronted about his drinking, and this mother sort of calls out Santa Claus for his being drunk on the job.
Percival Smithers.
Yeah, is that his name? Yeah. But he says this. He says, "I can either drink or I can weep, and drinking is so much more subtle. But as to my insubordination, I was not rude to that woman. Someone should remind her that Christmas is more than barging up and down department store aisles and pushing people out of the way. Someone has to tell her that Christmas is another thing, finer than that, richer, finer, truer, and it should come with patience and love and charity and compassion." And that's what I would have told her if you'd given me the chance. I don't know how to tell you, Mr. Dundee. I don't know at all. All I know is that I am an aging, purposeless relic of another time, and I live in a dirty rooming house on a street filled with hungry kids and shabby people, where the only thing that comes down the chimney on Christmas Eve is more poverty. Do you know another reason why I drink, Mr. Dundee? So that even when I walk down the tenements, I can really think it's the North Pole, and the children are elves, and that I'm really Santa Claus, bringing a bag of wondrous gifts for all of them. I just wish, Mr. Dundee, on one Christmas, one only, that I could see some of the hopeless ones and the dreamless ones. Just on one Christmas, I'd like to see the meek inherit the earth. And that's why I drink, Mr. Dundee, and that's why I weep. So I thought that was probably the crux line of the whole episode right there. Really pulls at your heartstrings, and you really feel for Henry Corwin. And yeah, again, just a testament to Art Carney's performance. But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of the high point for me, I guess, in the episode, is his delivery of that line. And anything else you got?
Well, I mean, the title is based upon the biblical quote of Matthew 5:5, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." So I think it pretty much ties into the story pretty well, if you read that and know what that is.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that I have anything as far as this particular part.
Well, I will throw this in here, that this isn't Carney's first exposure to a Rod Serling teleplay. Mm-hmm. 2 years previously, Carney starred in The Velvet Alley for Playhouse 90, which I believe it's the next episode or the one after that. I dove into a little short thing on the Playhouse 90 to tell everybody what that is, because I did not know what that was. But it keeps coming up over and over. It either. So we'll get into that in a future episode. But they told the in-store story of a television writer who fought his way from starvation through the Hollywood jungles, inhabited by insidious agents, gutless producers, and passionate party givers, to reach the oasis of a Bel Air mansion complete with swimming pool. Along the way, Serling's writer lost his integrity, his friends, his wife, and his soul. This episode also reunited Serling and Carney with director Jack Smite from the same Playhouse 90 telecast, who most recently directed Carney during his summer stock tour in the 7-Year Itch, and was also the director of Full Moon Over Brooklyn, the final show in the series of Art Carney specials the previous season. So Serling did admit to a reporter for the Hammond, Indiana Times, Eric. Mm-hmm. So much of the material in The Velvet Alley was autobiographical. Mm-hmm. How else can a writer write from a learned knowledge? Of course, I drew on my own experience as a television writer in molding the characterizations and plot of the teleplay. So,
now here's a little something that speaks. I said earlier that he didn't think speaking of Serling, he didn't think very highly of the episode, but let me read this. On December 12th, 1960, Serling wrote to Owen Kimura of YNR explaining that the Christmas show, instead of being the sheer delight I had hoped it would be, turned out to be an inconsequential nothing, and I rather think it will be a terrible disappointment to you. Serling's major source of disappointment was that the production had been done on videotape instead of filmed. Soon after viewing the final cut, Serling remarked this Christmas offering was an abomination and looks for all the world like a rough dress rehearsal that is a couple days from coming around. Today, however, the episode is favored by many fans of the television series and for some tradition to view in their living rooms every holiday season, but not for Jimbo.
No.
We already talked about the props. Here's another, I hate using this term again, but here's another Karen of sorts. Let me read this. On December the 30th, Miss Marilyn Lister of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, wrote to Serling expressing her disappointment in the Christmas show. I enjoyed the plot, but there were several details of it that I disliked. The one thing I disliked most was the portrayal of the woman at the mission. I think your characterization of this woman was in bad taste and completely unfair to the people who dedicate their lives to helping men and women who are down and out. You could have very, very easily changed this part of your show without harming the story. Why was it so necessary to put this woman at the mission in a bad light?
So once again, we see a Rod Serling apology coming.
Yeah, so he responded on February the 7th. Serling offered his belated apology. He assured her that it was not his intention to portray the character of the missionary in any unfavorable light. Ours is never the job to knowingly offend, and I think you read something into the characterization that was not there. I would have no reason whatsoever to slight the men and women who do spend their lives helping others. So there again, someone, maybe an oversensitive viewer that had to write in. I mean, it's a character. Yeah.
Well, Serling, I'll read this too because this ties in. So this was not Serling's first exploration to a Christmas drama.
Mm-hmm.
While he wrote a number of them during his radio career, one radio play never got produced. Are you ready for this one? No Christmas This Year, 1949 to 1951, told the tale of a civilization that dispenses with Christmas. No one knew exactly why this was so. They just knew it was happening, and the mayor of the town claimed someone high up was responsible for the decision. Santa up at the North Pole has his own problems. The elves are on strike. The factory no longer manufactures toys. They produce crying gas, heavy bombs, fire bombs, and atomic bombs. Worse, he's been shot at when he flies over Palestine and China. One of these elves got hit by shrapnel over Greece. When Serling wrote The Night of the Meek, he fashioned the character for Mr. Dundee and Sister Florence from characteristics of the radio script. So
I want to hear that. I got to hear that. That sounds intriguing to me.
Right, yeah. But I mean,
here's the lady now. Here's the missionary lady who's in the mission. She has to be kind of rough with people. I mean, look at this bunch. Look at this rowdy bunch in here.
There's a bunch of drunks over there.
Yeah, I mean, of course, he's going to have to be stern with them, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I won't belabor that point, but here's the information that I was trying to find earlier. Listen to this small piece of trivia here. It says, because of the cost of overruns, there were 6 consecutive episodes, including this one, that were videotaped and then transferred to 16mm film for TV. We've talked about that at some length. For broadcast and future syndication and rebroadcast. It saved, now get this, it saved only about $30,000 for all 6 episodes. Not enough to justify the loss of depth of visual perspective, which gave those shows an appearance like a live broadcast or like soap operas of the day. This was an experiment for a normally filmed TV show and was basically called a failure. They never did that kind of recording again for any more of the Twilight Zone episodes, thankfully so. That was not repeated because it was not worth it.
You wonder, it was so popular that why CBS decided to do some cuts. You know what I mean? I mean, were they just trying to look to save money?
You know, big corporations, man, save the almighty dollar.
Yeah.
It's difficult probably too in the arts. I mean, they're gonna, for whatever reason, big corporations don't want to spend money on things of that nature. But near the end, Corwin Santa is sitting on the steps of the mission talking to the character in the credits. I talked about this earlier. Listed in the credits as simply Old Man. However, he addresses him twice as Bert. So that's Bert, what's his name? Bert Minton. Yep. So that was actually his name too. Jimbo's already talked about the biblical quote of Matthew 5:5, and blessed are the meek. Art Carney and John Fielder would go on to appear on Broadway as Felix Unger and Vinny in the original production of the
Odd Couple,
right. So Art Carney would later play the role of Santa Claus in the film entitled The Night They Saved Christmas in 1984. Not Ernest Saves Christmas, but The Night They Saved Christmas.
Did you happen to notice the sign in the mission?
No.
Look, it says, "Love thy neighbor."
Love
see it right there?
As she's yelling.
Yeah, as she's yelling. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But here's something else, too. In December of 1964, Stephen Bobbins of the Eugene A. Thai School in Margate City, New Jersey, wrote to Serling. Here we go with another letter.
Okay.
Thanking him for the wonderful story which the kids decided to put on stage.
Oh, yeah.
Traditionally, the school put on A Christmas Carol, but that changed in December of 1964 when The Night of the Meek was loosely adapted at a junior high level for stage production. Upon learning of the school's achievement, Serling on Christmas Eve 1964 wrote to Mr. Bobbins, "I'm delighted that The Night of the Meek was done by your class, and I hope it gave pleasure. All writers have pets amongst their output, and this story is my special one."
Yeah.
Can you imagine us pulling that off when we were in grade school?
Yeah, that's a monumental task, especially when it was that new.
Right.
And trying to work out all the kinks and stuff.
Especially having like a little fifth grader trying to portray a drunk.
yeah, that sounds funny.
Although we might have video footage of Eric pulling off Who Flung Chow from.
Hopefully not. This is one of the parts that I like too, where the bag keeps changing back and forth from cans and Christmas gifts.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Mr. Dundee asked for a rare type of brandy or whatever from Santa Claus, and he pulls it out. I thought that was kind of neat.
He pulls out the cat too.
Yeah, right. When this episode was originally telecast in 1960, Serling's closing narration featured a final line not featured on the commercial VHS or DVD releases, and a Merry Christmas to each and all. This final line was removed from certain prints and reruns and is rarely seen. So that's kind of a shame.
Yeah.
So we're closing in. I think that's all as far as trivia is concerned from my end. We can close in on the...
Right, so basically he's been arrested, and they take him down there, and they said they accuse him of stealing from the department store. And he's like, where else would he get all these gifts? Mm-hmm. But as we know, they go in there, the police and the store owner, I guess, just keeps pulling out those cans, and they put it in there. He's like, look, we can't keep him. So then, he says, well, what do you want? And he pulls out that wine, and they're like, I don't believe it. Hey, come to my house. It's on me or whatever. So you see him going outside, and he's asking the kids what they want. One's like, I want a baseball bat. I want a dolly.
Yeah, this is cool right here. Where he's just handing
he's just reaching in there and pulling out whatever they want.
Whatever they want. Yeah, that's really cool. And then old Bert comes out with his smoking jacket and pipe, because that's what he got in the mission. And they sit down on the stoop. As before mentioned, they have a brief conversation, and then Henry sort of strolls across the street and runs into a sleigh with reindeer, and an elf jumps out from behind a trash can.
That was so ridiculous. Wasn't it?
You don't like that?
It's so ridiculous.
Ta-da! So in the final analysis, basically, Henry becomes Santa Claus because that is his because that's what Bert asked him. What was his greatest wish? And Henry says, "Well, I think I got my wish. My wish was to give everybody what they wanted for Christmas."
And just to see when he's going off, it's like jumping around. He's over and over dramatic about it. I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is.
Yeah, it's a Twilight Zone. So,
but then you have the two walking out, and they see basically the shadows of the reindeer going over him, hearing the bells, and he's like, "Did you see? Did you see what I saw?" He's like, "You better come over to my house. We'll pour you a cup too." Basically,
yeah, some more brandy or whatever he was drinking, sherry or whatever liquor he was drinking. Yeah. So, just in the final analysis, and to wrap up, I guess in my questions and observations segment, I think that Henry Corwin was the Meek in this episode, and he just wants to bring joy to others. That, in fact, is his wish, and it is subsequently granted as he becomes Santa Claus. So that's kind of the gist. Of course, the Meek aren't just restricted to him. I think the kids and everyone who received the Christmas gift. But just by way of observation, if you go back to the beginning of the episode, Bruce, the bartender, misspells Mary as Mery on the mirror. If you remember, he takes the shaving cream or whatever. He spells it Mery in the mirror behind the bar instead of Merry. Just another observation. I think this.
Yeah, but he left his Santa bag there too.
Oh yeah. And then I think it goes back to Rod at the end.
Yeah.
It has a lot of It's a Wonderful Life feel to it. It definitely it became one of my favorites. Is it the best Christmas story ever told? No, but it's the Twilight Zone. It's hard to incorporate sci-fi and Christmas, I guess, to me. I don't know. But I think Art Carney's magnificent in it, and I'm always going to, ever since I've seen it, I think 3 years ago, I saw it for the first time. It's going to be in my Christmas time rotation.
So, Eric, what are you rating it? Let's get down to the nuts and bolts of it, baby. What are you going to rate this episode?
7.
Give it a 7, huh?
Maybe 7.5.
I gave it a 6.
Okay.
And
tell me why.
I think a big part of the reason is the way it was shot.
Yeah.
If it would have been on a regular, what you're used to, Twilight Zone, it probably would have been a 7.5, like where you put it. But it just took me out of it. You know what I mean? From early on.
Right.
Art Carney did a fabulous job, but some of the over-the-top acting, it was just too much.
Just couldn't get over the piglet.
Just too much. Yeah, the piglet. No, he was probably the best part. Like I said, it should have been called Night of the Week instead of Night of the Meek. I was going to write a poem, one of Eric's famous poems, but I didn't get to it. I thought it would have been funny.
You're letting me down.
I know. Maybe in a future episode, but
the Night of the Week.
I will say this: at this point of season 2, I believe season 1 is killing season 2.
Really?
Killing it.
Okay.
Honestly, the only one that I thought was probably upper echelon was probably Eye of the Beholder. I think that had the classic Twilight Zone twist. And I'm talking, we're talking the Howling Man's in this season. That stupid, whatever we covered with the stupid, what's his name? William Shatner. Yeah, that was terrible.
Nick of Time.
Oh, terrible.
That's a great episode.
That was terrible, man. I should have wrote a story about that one. But, yeah, so, and you know what? I'm a little bit further ahead in season 2 now than I was. But there's season 1, I think, just holds a special place in my heart. So, you got anything else, Eric?
No, I don't think I have anything else. As far as, let me look and see. I don't think I have any observation. No, I do think it was a good episode. Probably better than what you thought. I would agree definitely with the videotaped. The fact that it was on videotape was not great. I just would prefer that they would have done them all in 35 millimeter, but I know that what's done is done. I guess moving on to the next episode, I don't know that it's going to get much better. For our next episode is Dust. It's entitled Dust.
Terrible.
You didn't like it either?
It's terrible, too.
We'll get to that one.
But the one after that's really good, I think. So, Well, if you'd like to follow us on social media, we are the Tragedy of Cinema Podcast on Facebook. If you'd like to email us, thetragedyofcinema@gmail.com if you want to leave us a review. And also, this is the first time I believe I'm announcing it on the podcast, coming May 20th, 2023. We will be with Hillbilly Horror Stories and Middle Aged and Creeped Out for a live show at the haunted Boone County Jail in Lebanon, Indiana. So look for tickets on the Facebook page. I'll give more detail on our regular episodes, so be on the lookout for that. Well, Eric, Happy New Year. Back to be back in the saddle. Let's get this thing on a roll, and that's a wrap.
And cut.
A word to the wise to all the children of the 20th century, whether their concern be pediatrics or geriatrics, whether they crawl on hands and knees and wear diapers or walk with a cane and comb their beards. There's a wondrous magic to Christmas, and there's a special power reserved for little people. In short, there's nothing mightier than the meek. And a Merry Christmas to each and all.